Hello everyone. In this video, we will talk about and learn about active voice and passive voice. Before discussing active and passive voice, let me tell you, in English grammar, verbs have 5 properties: voice, mood, tense, person, and number. Here in this video, we are concerned with voice. The two grammatical voices are active voice and passive voice. Now, what is voice? Voice describes the relationship between a verb and the subject and the object related with it. We use active voice as much as possible to create a direct, clear, and concise sentences, especially when you are writing about the actions of the people. We use passive voice when it is more important to focus on the receiver of an action than on who performed the action, such as when describing an experimental setup. To continue our learning about active voice and passive voice, let's discuss the question, why should we use passive voice? To understand passive voice, we should know, why do we use an active voice? Let's have a look at the definition of an active voice. In an active voice, the subject of the sentence is doing the action. Let's have a look at this example. Steve ate the food. Steve is the subject of this sentence. And Steve, as a subject, is doing an action. What action is he doing? He is doing an action of eating. Thus, we can say the active voice is used when the doer of the sentence is important and when the doer of the sentence is doing something, doing that important action. Since we have already discussed about an active voice, I think it's a little easier to answer this question, why should we use passive voice? Let's have a look at the definition of a passive voice. In a passive voice, the action is more important than the doer. The doer means the person who is performing the action. Let's have a look at this example. The food was eaten by Steve. In this example, the action of eating food was done by Steve. So here in this example, the action of eating food is more important than the doer, Steve. Thus, the passive voice is used when the action of the sentence is important. Active voice versus passive voice. Let's have a look at another example of active voice and passive voice. In an active voice, the subject is performing the action. Take a look at this example. The car hit him. In this sentence, the car is the subject. The car is performing the action of hitting. It is more important to know what hit him than who was hit by the car. On the other hand, in a passive voice, the subject is receiving the action. Let's take a look at the example. He was hit by the car. Now, he was receiving the action of hitting. He was not the one who was performing the action. The car is the one what was performing the action. So in a passive voice, the subject is receiving the action. It is more important to know who was hit by the car than to know what hit him. Let's discuss why should we use passive voice. We use passive voice when we don't know who did the action. For example, someone broke the cup. In this example, I don't know who broke the cup. So it is very easy to say someone without blaming anybody. So in this sentence, we don't know who broke the cup. So we use someone as a subject. However, we can use passive voice instead. For example, I can also say like this in a passive voice, the cup was broken, since I don't know who did the action. Thus, we learn if we don't know who did the action, we can skip the subject by using the passive voice. Let's discuss the 4 different uses of passive voice. The first one is when we don't want to say who does the action in a sentence. For example, the cake was eaten by my friend, but I don't want to say that. So it is always safe to use passive voice when you don't want to say who does the action in a sentence. Let's have another example. When it is clear or understood who does the action in a sentence. Let's take a look at the example. He was arrested. So we know the action of arrest was done by the police. But it is already cleared and understood. So I don't need to repeat this. So I can skip that in a sentence by using passive voice. Another use of passive voice is when we don't know who does the action in a sentence. This we have already discussed previously. Let's take a look at an example. The bicycle has been stolen. I don't know who has stolen the bicycle. So it is safe to say in a passive voice. Another use of passive voice is when the focus is on the person or a thing affected by the action in a sentence. What does that mean? Let's have a clarification by looking at this example. John was bitten by tiger. Now, in this sentence, the focus is on the victim. And who was the victim? John. It is not important to discuss who bit John, since the focus is on the victim, that John was bitten. So when the focus is on the person or the thing affected, we use passive voice. Now Let's discuss the question, what does the passive voice consist of? How do we make a passive voice? The passive voice consists of number 1, the subject, number 2, the verb to be, number 3, the past participle of the verb, that means third form of the verb, number 4, sometimes the agent and or other complements. Let's have a look at some examples. The book was read by my mom in one day. Now the book is a subject, was is the verb to be, read is the past participle. That means the third form of the verb. And the rest of the sentence is the agent, other complements. Another example, this movie wasn't liked by anyone. In this sentence, this movie is a subject. Wasn't is the verb to be. Liked is the past participle, third form of the verb. By anyone is the agent. Third example, the chairs had been broken. In this sentence, the chairs is a subject, had been is the verb to be, broken is the past participle. That means the third form of the verb. In this sentence, we don't have an agent or any other complements. If we compare active versus passive voice, we can say active is more personal since the focus is on the person doing the action or a task. And on the other hand, passive is more impersonal since the focus is on the action or a task. The focus is not on the person. After learning about active and passive voice, let's learn how to write an active and a passive sentence. Since we know in an active voice, emphasis is on the doer or the performer. In a passive voice, emphasis is on the result or the receiver. Let's take a look at this example. The dog chased the cat. The dog is the subject, the doer, who is performing the action of chasing the cat. Chased is a verb. The cat is an object who is receiving an action of chasing by the dog. How to write a passive sentence? In a passive sentence, the object of an active sentence becomes the subject of a passive sentence, and the subject of an active sentence becomes an object of a passive sentence. And the verb is going to be changed into verb phrase. That means to be plus past participle. Thus, we have learned about active and passive voice And we also know how to write an active and passive sentence. That's all in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, please hit the like button and please subscribe to my channel since I'm going to make some short videos about some of the grammatical concepts in a near future. And make sure you hit the bell button in order to get a new notification every single time I upload a new video. Thank you. Have a good day.